Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back, everyone. Yes, I am your host for the next 2 hours of radio right here on Truth Frequency Radio. And this, ladies, gentlemen, he, she's, theys, those, it's, these, whatever you identify as, you know, we may have some time travelers out there, some interdimensional creepers, and of course, many, many lurkers. But all the lurkers are very welcome here. It's the 6th anniversary of the Kev Baker Show right here on your number one network and my number one network, the home of the Kev Baker Show, Truth Frequency Radio. Now, in the build up to this quite momentous anniversary, I would say, 6 years surviving in alternative media in this day and age, pretty good going. You know, I had been talking about getting this one on, getting that one on, we'll bring so and so in, and we'll have a right shindig, you know. But it just wouldn't be the Kev Baker Show if I was to sit here for 2 hours and have people coming along and patting me on the back and telling me how great my own show was. No. So, aside from that, I got Nano Girl on earlier today. And Nano Girl is somebody who has been really, you know, instrumental and pretty much a constant throughout the Kev Baker Show. I tried to get in touch with Johnny Whistles today to see if he could make it on with Nano or with myself and tonight's guest, but unfortunately I couldn't get a hold of him. But I am happy to say I do have a special guest for tonight. Now, tonight's guest in recent times has really, really raised the bar. Not just for, you know, the shows that myself and tonight's guest have done, but I think for the network on the whole. Some of the very best information when it comes to all of the occult, all of the hidden kind of stuff out there has come to the surface when we've teamed up with Ryan Gable from the Secret Teachings. So Ryan is going to be here with me tonight, and I'll get to Ryan in just a moment. But I want to thank all of you out there that listen to the show, all of you that have gone a step further. You might be a member here on Truth Frequency Radio. You might be a member over on YouTube. You might have found ways to support me through PayPal and other means. I just want to thank each and every one of you, not just from me, but from my family as well. Because without all of you out there, you know, there just would be no Kev Baker Show. There would be no Truth Frequency Radio for people like me to broadcast on. So instead of me giving myself a pat on the back tonight, how about all of you give yourselves a pat on the back? Because it's because of people like you that people like me and people like Ryan continue to do what we do. It takes a lot of time and effort and energy when I think back over the years and what we've all gone through, the stuff that we've seen come and go. And, you know, I really think it's worth it, though. I really do. Because of the value that I think all of you bring to the table and the fact that I do think we're getting somewhere. We might not change the world. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee we won't change the world. I know for a fact we've changed the worlds of some of the listeners out there around them. And you yourself, you know, you can change the world for people just by doing something nice, just by one of these random acts of kindness that you hear about. So we might not be able to change the whole world, but it's certainly good fun getting to learn about what it's really all about and what reality truly is. And tonight we're going to be diving deep into, you know, some of the mysteries and some of the curses that lie over in the entertainment world. And it's that entertainment world where Ryan really comes to the fore. He really has a set of eyes that see things that most people don't. And I was saying to Nano Girl today, I was actually ended up quite embarrassed because myself and Joe Joseph, we were doing our stream one weekend when the Super Bowl was on. And because the Super Bowl was on the night of the stream, we had kind of dubbed it the halftime show breakdown. And me being the toxic kind of male that I am, I couldn't see past the flesh of Shakira and J-Lo. So we ended up just having a laugh about it. And myself and Joe were saying how the symbology in these big ritual events nowadays, it's a lot more subtle than it used to be. It used to be quite blatantly in your face, you know, pyramids here, eyes there. Didn't take a genius to see the Illuminati kind of signaling going on. So we had a laugh and a joke about that. And then I heard Clyde and Ryan getting together for their annual kind of ritual. And that is the breakdown of the Super Bowl show. And the breakdown of the Super Bowl show, well, I'm telling you, did it blow my mind? I honestly thought there wasn't much to see there, but as we're going to learn tonight, and a whole lot more, there was definitely a lot going on. And there is a lot going on when it comes to the world of entertainment. There's a lot of dark stuff that we've touched on before. Billie Eilish, or Eilish as she probably is called, she's picking up an award tonight in the UK. She's winning one of these Brit Awards. We've talked about her in the past. But Ryan today really, he kind of, I was lost for words because he said to me, Kev, have you ever heard of this film? And he told me the name of it. No, I'd never heard of it. He said, well, Kev, this is like the most crazily cursed movie out there. So I went on a little dig. I went and had a look around Google, and I refused to pay money to Amazon for their documentary. They're just not getting any more money off me than they already do. But it's a film called Antrum. And we're going to be talking tonight about the Antrum effect. So I hope you're all looking forward to this. And for anyone who hasn't heard Ryan before, and he is the man behind something called The Secret Teachings, and his website is thesecretteachings.info. Now, he's not only a podcaster on Fringe FM with his show, The Secret Teachings, but he's an accomplished author as well with 3 books to his name. He's got Occult Arcana, Food Philosophy, and The Technological Elixir. And he is here with us tonight, and we promise there'll be no blue chicken jokes along the way. Brian? I'm calling you Brian now. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Kev. 6 years, you finally got a fireplace in the background. It looks good.
It's the fireside chat, dude. Do you like that?
I love the fireside chat. You might get pinged for that, but...
It's quite presidential, right?
And you record, like the president, every conversation that happens in your office.
Yep, I do. Apart from the ones that incriminate me.
Well, you don't need to do that recording. Your phone will do that for you.
But very, very true. But dude, how long have you been doing this crazy game that we play? This alternative media circus that we're a part of?
I was thinking that when you said 6 years, and I tell people 10 years, that's how long I've been doing it, but I've been doing it professionally also for about 6 years and a few months. But still 10 years of total commitment to it. It is a lot of work. Anyone who puts the dedication, the time into it, like any other form of art, you know how draining it can be energetically, but you also know how rewarding it can be, like any art or any job, anything that's worth doing. You feel that you really, really are grateful for the support that you get from people, because literally, if nobody supported you, Kev, it would be you watching your own stream on YouTube, and you'd be talking to yourself.
I don't think people appreciate that. I don't think people appreciate the value in what probably is to them just a throwaway comment. But I'm sure you're the same as well. You know, there's some things that the listeners will say to you that really touches your heart. Kind of reminds you why you do what you do. And I don't know about you, but, you know, you look at social media and you look at the internet and you get a skewed version of the world. You really do think we're losing all hope. But then you come across people that think like us, and they don't necessarily agree with us all the time, Ryan. That's not the point. The point is that they're open-minded, they're willing to have a conversation, and they've realized that there's something far wrong in this world. And it kind of encourages me, you know, because you can sometimes focus on the negative of life when you're doing this kind of thing. You often look at the negative side of any story, and it can give you with a kind of negative outlook and the way you look at other people, humanity on the whole. Gets kind of grim at times, but again, it's one of these comments, and it probably means nothing to the person that leaves it, or takes them 10 seconds to write you an email. But that touches me more than anything, and it's those things that keep me going. And the fact that I know that we are helping people out there on their journeys, Ryan. Maybe not telling them the way the world is, but at least giving them the material they need to do their own research and go and have a look for themselves, right?
Yeah, conspiracy or conspiracy analysis, whatever you choose to call it, there's a form of conspiracy junk food, I call it now. And every time we have a big event like a Super Bowl or an Olympics, which are coming up in Tokyo this year, there are always those clickbait stories, YouTube videos that people throw together really quick for hits, for clicks, to make a little bit of money, to get some attention. There's very little, if any, thought or attention to detail that's put into it. It's just a fast food, non-nutritious conspiracy using hashtags and words like Illuminati and, like you said, one eyeball and pyramid. And that's what's seen at a halftime show. That's what's seen at the ceremony to the Olympics. And it's almost as if conspiracy theory has become, if it wasn't before, as black and white as the belief in any official narrative, as opposed to the disbelief in any official narrative, in the sense that the Super Bowl halftime show, for example, since you brought that up, must be strictly a satanic Illuminati New World Order cult ritual. And if it's not that, then it must just be a performance with Shakira and some backup dancers or something. But the reality is, this year, it was very subtle. And when you examined it, it wasn't an Illuminati conspiracy, New World Order, reptilian-controlled royal family ritual. It was actually a very, arguably so, and I could pick my words carefully here if I thought about it, but it was almost like a neutral, positive ritual. It was all about the springtime, and it was actually taking place on one of the primary Sabbats on the witch's calendar, Imbolc, February 2nd. That's when the Super Bowl was held. And one of the primary elements of the Imbolc festival, Kev, is feasting, divination, and tying the knot of Bridget, or the cross of Bridget. And you saw Shakira, she did that. She tied a knot and held the cross up over her head in the magic circle. And that's what, depending on the historical and location setting of a culture, especially the Celtic people, they celebrated Imbolc by making that cross of Bridget, having a feast, and then performing some act of divination. All things we do during the Super Bowl. We feast during the Super Bowl. We saw the Imbolc festival with the cross of Bridget, and of course divination. We use it as an oracle to divine the future of what's going to happen this coming year.
And of course, if you go into watching one of these events expecting to see all the Illuminati, all that stuff,
The pyramids.
you're gonna find stuff in there that it's gonna fit that. What you believe, you're gonna end up seeing. But I was really, really impressed with you and Clyde this year, because, like you say, it was very subtle. To the point where I just wrote it off, Ryan. Totally wrote it off, just had a laugh, quite boring. I wanted to go back to the times of the 2012 Olympics and the crazy looking babies and all that kind of weird stuff going on.
Those the good old days.
And then, the good old days. And then yourself and Clyde, even before you got into it, you referenced the fact it was one of these panadrome days where the date's the same backwards and forwards. And it was the 33rd day of the year as well, so right off the bat I'm thinking, how did I even get that before anything started? But that was just the start of what you guys uncovered. So we might as well go here now. We'll open up with this. I mean, talk to us more about what was going on in that halftime show. We had Shakira, we had J-Lo. What else was going on there?
Yeah, well, we had, like I said, the ritual of Imbolc performed. Imbolc isn't necessarily a ritual. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way. It's a festival. It's the midpoint between the celebration of Yule, which is the winter solstice, and Ostara, which is the spring equinox. It's the midpoint between the two. It's the first sign in the northern hemisphere that the winter is going to hopefully come to an end and there'll be new life again. So we have, just like with Christmas, you bring evergreen trees and things like this to remind us and to remember nature and to honor nature. And then when we have the Imbolc festival, it's really kind of like a spring cleaning festival. And it's very close to Valentine's Day, which is taken from a Roman festival called Lupercalia, which is a spring cleaning festival and also one of fertility and sexuality. And so that, of course, is part of the Latino culture in terms of their dancing, and that was very much on display with the shaking booties and all that. So that was an important element of the dancing itself, but it was also very important, just the natural culture of that type of dance for the Imbolc festival, because it's a fertility festival, it's a sexual festival relating to new life, procreation of both people and of plants. And so if you were to look into the further details of it and what it really means, what it really references, I was thinking about it the night of the Super Bowl. I can go back and tell you really quick what happened. As I watched the Super Bowl, I watched the halftime show, took a few notes, and then Clyde actually called me and we talked a few minutes, and he said that he saw the axis mundi, which is the pole, the axis of the earth, the pole that holds everything together, the heavens and the earth. And I said, well, I didn't even notice that. The pole that J-Lo was on, and then she climbed up another pole and she was crucified on the pole with 6 other poles. So you have 7 total poles, the 7 divine rays of light, 7 days of creation. She was crucified in the center of the stage, which was also a magic circle. And I said to Clyde, I said, well, also, you know, Shakira had the knot of Brigid. And so he looked that up real quick and he said, yep, that's it. You got it. So we put together what we saw. We did this show. But after that, I'm thinking, I was laying in bed, it was late at night, and I was thinking, I thought, okay, Cross of Brigid, Imbolc, this whole festival is an actual ritual. There's a name for this ritual. And I get it. I know some witches, some Wiccans, they don't want anything to do with this association, and that's fine. But from a strictly intellectual, scholarly perspective, the ritual that was performed at the halftime show is called Drawing Down the Moon, where the goddess, or essentially the priestess of the coven, attempts to draw down the goddess so she becomes the goddess. She draws down Selene. She draws down the moon into her like the Oracle of Delphi and allows the goddess to speak through her. I think, Kev, that is what we saw at the halftime show this year. The knot of Brigid in the magic circle. The stage was also the symbol of Venus. We saw that symbol elsewhere, heavily promoting and heavily suggesting of sexual energy, and especially female sexuality, the powerful force of the female to create life. And all of that put together, not in a negative way, not an Illuminati, satanic, New World Order, reptilian conspiracy ritual, but just, yeah, ooga booga, with the eyeballs. Even if I cover one eye here on the YouTube stream, someone's going to think I'm in the Illuminati. They'll circle it with a little red marker, and it'll be all over the internet. But that's the kind of thing we see. It's basically a fertility ritual, it's a sexual ritual, it's a cleansing ritual, and it's also a drawing down of the goddess, drawing down of the moon into the female, and that's part of the divinatory process as well, allowing the goddess to speak through, to commune through, just like the Oracle of Delphi. All of that, Kev, I think encompasses the halftime show and what the performance really was all about.
Yeah, like I say, Ryan Gable, he has a set of eyes that really do know. You know, when he watches something like that, he's got that background knowledge, as opposed to me, who gets distracted very easily when Shakira's on there doing her thing. But fascinating, it really is how these events, they really do. They use them. It doesn't matter if people know what they're watching or not. You know, that the way you've laid that out there, I mean, I get, maybe we shouldn't call it ritual, because that's got negative connotations right away. Because from listening to you, as opposed to some years in the past, it sounds more a positive thing than anything dark or anything bad, right?
Yeah, Clyde and I talked about that too on his show on Ground Zero, and I did 2 shows on it, and they're for free right now, and will be free on my website at thesecretteachings.info as well. But yes, it's not necessarily a negative thing. You did have a number of other things that were relevant that were really just neutral. And you mentioned the palindrome, the 2020, 2020, so 2-2-2020, go backwards, it's the same thing. Also, Andy Reid, the coach, won his 222nd game, which was his Super Bowl win. And you could play with the numbers, do your number gymnastics, Kev. You know, Super Bowl 54, 5 times 4 is 20. Look at all the 20s, look at all the 2s. It's a New World Order conspiracy, you know, ooga booga. But all of this is perhaps the bottom layer, as much as the dancing and the performance was kind of the bottom layer. If you look at what even something like the Roman numerals mean, L-I-V, you know, live, life, it refers, of course, to the female and the female's ability to bring about life. And the inversion of life is evil. The inversion of living is death. So you had the magic circle. You had the Venus imagery. All of that was present with the axis mundi, which supports both the male and the female, the black and the white. It supports heaven and earth. The 7 pillars of light and creation were there, where J-Lo was crucified on the one pillar, the 6 other pillars behind her. There were images when Shakira was on stage with women in the background laying, I think, on their backs, and they had their legs opening and closing, reminiscent of Melusine or the Starbucks logo, the beautiful female siren. I mean, the very nature of the Brigid knot or the Brigid cross, and if you're interested in what that is, just type in Brigid knot, Brigid cross. For Christians, she's known as Saint Brigid. But this knot that Shakira had was displayed as a cross. She had her hands bound, and it was inside of a de facto magic circle stage, which was also the symbol of Venus. And it was a ritual invocation, and it was expressed by 2 female performers. And in Wicca, that is a central ritual where a coven's high priestess enters a trance, pulls the triple goddess as exemplified by Bridget's knot, which is also representative of the triple goddess, Mother, Maiden, Crone, and is, of course, symbolized by the moon itself. She pulls that down into her body, and then that goddess speaks through her. The female essence, the creative energy, the creative force speaks through her. And so, therefore, it seems that this was the central ritual of Super Bowl 54, the big game of life. And yes, I think to answer your question simply, it wasn't necessarily negative or positive, but it feels more positive, unless you want to take another angle and say it's a symbol of birth and life, but a symbol of the birth and life of something negative.
Yeah.
You could take that approach too.
Depending how you look at the world will depend how you look at it. But yeah, amazing, dude. Truly amazing. And then we got a couple of minutes before the break. You sent me a video today, right, about Lady Gaga. What the heck did I watch, man? I mean, Lady Gaga is a pretty kind of crazy character on a good day when she's like semi-lucid. But this was like, she's smashing mirrors up, she's covering herself in food, she's dyeing her hair, she's talking about how she's this artist filling in her past and she's traumatized. What the hell was going on there, dude?
Dude, I don't know what was going on there. That's an old song too. I just heard it the other day, and I decided to look up the video for the first time. It's that Mary the Night song. And yeah, she's breaking the mirror, which is representative of smashing the other personality or one of multiple personalities. Then you see her in the bathtub, which is reminiscent of Whitney Houston. Even in Sabrina, she was in the bathtub when she was dreaming about her parents. And you see that with Poppy and so many others in the bathtub, Taylor Swift. And then she was dyeing her hair again. We know all about the dyed hair with everybody from Eminem to Amanda Bynes to Miley Cyrus to, I mean, just the list goes on and on. Katy Perry did it. Kanye West with the blonde dyed hair, shaved head as well. Again, representative of MPD or multiple personalities. And you know what, Kev, before we go to break, I think that's a good way to segue into the other elements of the music industry and of entertainment in general, including the movie Antrum, because this movie that you mentioned earlier came out in the 70s. And just a very, very brief overview, the movie, it's supposed to be cursed. And a lot of people in big screenings who have went to see this back in the 80s did actually die. There was a mass death of 56 people at a theater in Budapest when the theater burned down. So the idea is when you see this movie, you die. Just like later in the 90s and then in the early 2000s, we had Ringu, which is a Japanese film, and we had The Ring, also John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns, about a movie that can kill people. But then you compare that to the music industry, and what do you find? Music to commit suicide by.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan Gable, the secretteachings.info. Don't go anywhere. Ah, yes. Now, there we are. We're still on YouTube, so a big shout out to everyone out in YouTube land. Thank you all for tuning in today. 6 years old now. I've been on YouTube longer than that. I get it, but the show itself, 6 years old. Now, Ryan, if you need to go and do something for 2 minutes, now's your time. Oh.
I think I'm good. I want to warn you, though, Kev. Don't say 6 too many times because you'll have people putting that together. Look, Kev said 6.
Don't say 6 like that, you know?
Yeah.
You know people, right? That's us now. We're on Twitter. You'll have your eye covered. You'll have my guest from last night, Brendan, going against the woke culture. We'll all be outed as being some kind of who knows what. But what you been up to, man? You know, before we go back on air, you know what you've been doing with yourself? It's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has been a while. I know I made a page on my website for all of the shows that we've done. And I showed that to you earlier, and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm missing some shows. And I went back and pulled all of them except for the Finders Cult show we did.
Yeah, it got purged.
It got purged. But we've done so many shows, Kev. I just forgot how many shows we've done.
I know that when we do shows, you'll be the same yourself, right? You get certain guests on, and it seems to resonate with the audience to the point where they feel moved to write to you and things and say, wow, that was great. And you're one of those guests that come on and it gets that response. And me personally, I love listening to you when you're on Clyde. Love listening to Clyde. We're both big Clyde fans. But yeah, I don't know, there's something cool happens when you come to KBS and when I go over to yours. And many more shows to come, Ryan. That's all I can say.
Yes, many more shows to come. And it might have something to do with some of my audience in the States. It's kind of exotic being over there in Scotland. I tell people, ask me, what show are you doing tonight? And I tell them I'm going on Kev Baker's show. Well, where's that? Out of Scotland. Where can I listen? You know, they love that idea. Yep. It's from somewhere else. It's another country.
They get this picture of Shrek in the castle. That's what it is. That's what it is. I know what everyone says. It's the accent. It's not. It's just that they think of Shrek.
They think of Shrek.
I don't know why it works. But we'll keep going with it. And any good guests you've had on your show lately?
I had myself on the show. I haven't had a guest
yourself.
for a while.
You've just been interviewing yourself, yes.
Yeah, I've just been interviewing myself.
Well, you know, sometimes it's actually, I didn't used to like doing solo shows, but I do now. But I cheat because I open up the phones and Ryan, my oh my, I'm going to start like, because we simulcast, what I'm going to do is now when we open up the phones, probably after the show, I'll cut the call section off the actual stream. Reason being, I'm going to start uploading like best calls of the week or calls of the month. Some of the calls, dude, they're just off the charts. Amazing.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. It's a lottery. Used to be absolutely bricking it anytime the phones went on. I always used to think there'd be clowns queuing up to come in and have a go, but far from it. The exact opposite. It's like an untapped mine of woo out there, dude.
How would you feel if I did a fake call and I told you I was calling from Area 51 and they were triangulating my position?
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I would play with it. We could go with that. Now, we're going to go back to the network in just a moment, folks. But, yeah, please remember, check out Truth Frequency Radio, tfrlive.com. It's not just me there. Over 30 shows for you to choose from. So here we go. We'll go back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Kev Baker Show, 6 years old today. How Chris and Cherie Geo have put up with me for 6 years. I tell you, I don't know who I need to thank, universe, God, unicorns, I don't know. But they have tolerated me for this long, and I hope it's many, many shows to come. I've done 1,256 shows. That's what we're on today. And on our 1,256, I think we've got that in us, surely, right? Dang, that's a lot of going. But listen, Ryan Gable is here with me. I don't want to waste any time. Check out his website, thesecretteachings.info. And today, you mentioned this movie before the break, Antrum. Now, to me, when I hear Antrim, I was thinking of Ireland, County Antrim, things like that. And then you said to me, "Oh, Kev, no, this is this movie." And then you told me what you'd kind of said there before the break, that it was cursed. And my first thought was, well, the Exorcist movie. There's another cursed one. I've covered that a couple of times when I've been speaking to Bill Bean. Him being an exorcist, for lack of a better term, you know. But I had no idea about the curse of Antrim. And again, you'd have to call it, and I know there's a documentary by the same name, but it's very apt, the deadliest movie ever made. Talk to us about this, man. I mean, what the hell is going on with this movie? And now there's a documentary about it. I'd never heard of this, ever. And I'll pull up some screenshots, I'll drop some images over at the chat room on TFR. Creepy, creepy stuff, dude.
It's very creepy, yes. I was flipping through an Amazon Prime watch list, and I saw this thing, Antrum, and the picture got my attention, so I saved it, and I decided I'll watch that sometime. Looks interesting. Not tonight. So the next couple of nights, I watched another movie, and that movie was in my watch list, and I kept scrolling over it. But I had that intuition, that radio intuition, or if you're an artist or you do anything creative, that intuition that you know you got to do something, you know exactly what to do. So I got this intuition, like I need to do a show on this. And I saw an article on the 15th of February, the day after Valentine's Day, this past weekend, and it was about this movie, interestingly enough. And it was about how the movie is coming to theaters in Japan, and that it's essentially been rescued from the annex of history by a horror film director after attending a film festival in New York City and looking at different films. I guess he heard about this film, and then he hunted it down last year, found it, entered into a deal with Uncorked Entertainment, and they published the film with a very, very small documentary, and I believe you can find it if you rent it on Amazon. Now, I'm not promoting the movie. I haven't seen the whole movie. I got what I needed to get out of the movie, and I did a show on it last night on The Secret Teachings, and I'll be briefly expanding on it before moving beyond it tonight on The Secret Teachings at thesecretteachings.info and the Fringe FM. So to break it down, Kev, stop me at any time. We think about movies that can kill, and the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously the 1990s Japanese film Ringu, I think is how you pronounce it, Ringu, right? And that is the precursor. That is the film that came out before The Ring. You know about The Ring, you know, and if you don't know about The Ring, it's a movie. You watch the movie. In the movie The Ring, you watch the movie, the tape, series of disturbing images, and then the phone rings, and a voice says you have 7 days to live. Now, there's another film that came out of the early 2000s, a John Carpenter film called Cigarette Burns. And this movie, this film is also about a movie that's being tracked down, and the movie is supposed to be deadly. And the movie itself, it's a very rare film. It's said to incite its audience into a frenzied state. And then I guess the thing in the movie Cigarette Burns is that the film is being screened and the theater bursts into flames. Now, interestingly enough, there are some historical coincidences, let's say, to that notion. The movie Antrum being the most significant, especially because of tonight's topic. But if you looked at some films like The Omen or The Exorcist, Poltergeist, Rosemary's Baby, even The Crow, with Brandon Lee being shot, you have a history of cinema that one could rightfully call cursed cinema, from lightning strikes to the case of the special effects artist on The Omen John Richardson, who helped to create the decapitation scene in that movie. And he was in a car crash during post-production. He survives the car crash. It's a head-on collision, but his assistant, Liz Moore, died in a manner almost identical to the decapitation scene. She's decapitated. There were other instances of a plane crash, of a plane that was chartered by the film, but it was switched out at the last minute. The whole plane went down, killed everybody on board. Gregory Peck's son shot himself right before the film, so this is pre, during, and post-production of The Omen. A couple of weeks after Gregory Peck's plane, which was also struck by lightning, a couple of weeks after that, an executive producer on The Omen, his plane was also struck by lightning. And then another producer in Rome was almost himself hit by lightning when filming some of the film there. Of course, in The Exorcist, you have a number of people that there are 9 deaths connected to The Exorcist and very serious injuries, like Ellen Burstyn, who suffered a permanent spinal injury during one of the stunts. And they actually used her scream in the movie. That's the real scream of her being injured.
That was disturbing when I heard that, and that's during one of the kind of contortion scenes where she's bent over, and I had to read that twice. I'm like, but they actually included the actual scream, and yeah, they kept that in there, and it was really quite. I mean, you mentioned 9, I think, people that passed away on the back end of that film, and some of the things that were happening around the set as well. Like, just can't remember off the top of my head the exact details. I sat here one night for about an hour before Bill joined me in hour number 2, and I was able to talk about this curse behind the actual Exorcist, that movie. I wonder what it is then, Ryan. You've got this one. We'll talk more about Antrum in a moment, but what's your initial kind of thoughts when you hear about these things going on? Almost like the bad luck. Curse is the best word to use.
Well, there's a really great example if you've ever watched The Conjuring. Have you seen that movie?
Yep.
Okay,
And I
now
believe even that movie has got some bad stuff that's happened around that as well.
Yes and no. So supposedly, and that I think is a great example. It's a more modern example as opposed to some of these films that were made in the late 60s, 70s, and so on after that period with the second or third movies being made. Well, you have the woman who played Lorraine Warren, and she supposedly was scratched by a demon on the set of the film. And that was turned into a publicity stunt. I'm not sure if, she thought of it or a producer thought of it, but it was turned into a media stunt. So, actor, actress attacked by demon on the set of The Conjuring. Ooh, it's haunted. Ooga booga again. But it turns out she had just scratched herself and she had a bug bite or something. And that was all that it was. I know some people will say, no, that's what they want you to think. They're covering it up, man. Okay, but we have to think of this objectively, Kev. Consider all the films that are made and that are being made every single day, every single week, month, and year. People get injured on the set of films that have nothing to do with the Antichrist, that have nothing at all to do with poltergeist activity, have nothing to do with the devil. People die on films. People get hurt on films. I mean, there are stories when I was in film school, I knew people that had worked, really dangerous places in Los Angeles. And, they were attacked and stabbed by drug addicts. It's not because of the film they were working on. It was the conditions or it was an accident. So we have to consider that. And I think what can really open up the doorway to walk into the world of Antrum is to look at what we mentioned about fires. I mentioned fires a moment ago. And if you look at The Exorcist, there's a story about how the entire set, minus the demonic bedroom, the entire set actually did burn down during the production of the movie. And as a result of that, it set filming back by about a month and a half, about 6 weeks. Then it gets a little bit cloudy. Whether or not the people that were on set believed that they were being haunted or there was a demon involved, they got a priest, a Thomas King, to come in and bless, the set, right? You heard that?
Yep.
But did they do that because they actually believed it, or because someone, accidentally set the set on fire, or they were already ahead in filming and then just burned the set anyway to make it look like something was going on as a way to get more publicity for the film? Those are just things that you have to consider. And there's a great example of that with the movie Antrum, if you'd like me to go into those
Oh
details.
yeah, absolutely. And just that there, what you said about the Exorcist, you have to keep that in mind, folks, because that's like marketing gold. You're appealing to an audience that's into that kind of macabre, kind of dark scene anyway. And then you tell them that there's some real life bad juju going on the set. Now, personally, I still err on the side that there might have been something weird on that set. And the reason I say that, right, is I know it's totally unrelated and unconnected, but maybe not. When I was reading that story about how the set had burned down, there was a part in it about how the bedroom part, it actually had been untouched. It didn't really burn. That part of the set was okay. And then that made me immediately think of my trip to Boleskine House, and I've told you about that because it's uncanny. You've got 3/4 of the house absolutely razed to the ground. It looks like it's been in a drone strike. And then you just go through this doorway, and all of a sudden there's no smoke damage, there's nothing. And to the right of you, there's a bedroom, and all this is on film. People have seen it. You go into the bedroom, and it's just furniture, nothing wrong, nothing's happened there. You wouldn't know there's been a fire. And then you come to learn that that was the room that Crowley was doing the magic in. So, is there something, I don't know, dude, that just gives me the heebie-jeebies when I hear that whole Exorcist story. But I don't think it's even a patch on just the brief details you gave me about Antrum earlier on. So I'm going to let you get back into this Antrum thing, because this is really, really weird. It's disturbing. It's dark. It's interesting. And that's usually all the checklist for a good Kev Baker show subject.
Especially for the 6th year.
Yeah. Will I say it 2 more times? Six. Get the 3 in there, get people talking.
Got to cover your eye, Kev. Cover your eye.
I'll do it subtly. I'll do it subliminally throughout the show. That'll be your Easter eggs to look out for throughout the show.
Hey, I've seen that KBS logo. It's a triangle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very triggery triangle. Because it looks very like another symbol that came out long after I had chosen my symbol, may I add. Just want to throw that in there. But yeah, Antrum, man. What's happening? Tell us about it. Is it a gimmick? I mean, is it all hype? What's going on?
I think that it's all of those things. The question is what came first, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the movie, so as the story, the legend goes, came out in the 1970s, or that's when it was made, shot on 35 millimeter film. And it was submitted to a number of film festivals in the early 1980s, 1983. And it was rejected, again, so far as the story goes, as the story tells, from all of the film festivals. But from what I understand, there were 3 film festivals that definitely rejected it. And the 3 film festivals that rejected it, the people that were in charge of deciding after having watched the movie whether they would screen it to an audience or not, all of them died. Tom Stylem of the Colorado Film Festival, he died of electrocution not too long after watching the film or the footage. Janet Hillberg of the Jones Park Film Festival had a seizure immediately after, not like the movie concludes and she has a seizure, but within a day or so, I think, was the story. And then, of course, you had the final death, Joe Berenger of the La Jolla Film Festival, who was poisoned. But that one maybe was coincidental. He was walking on the beach and he stepped on a poisonous fish. That, to be fair, is not a fish that is typically on the beach. So in all 3 cases, those 3 people rejected the film and they all died. Now, the question is, the other 4 organizers, did they watch the film? And if they did, then they lived, and more people lived than died after having watched the film. You'd also have to ask, and I don't know if there's a way to figure this out, the person that watched it to screen it, like the guy named Tom Stylum or Janet Hilberg, or was the other guy's name, Joe Berenger, if these guys watched it with a group of other people and none of those people died. So coincidence, something more, something supernatural. There are so many ways that you can look at this, but it gets stranger. 5 years later, in 1988, a movie theater in Budapest got a copy of the film, and they decided to show it. It was an audience of 56 people in the theater, and they never got to finish the movie, Kev. Because before the movie concluded, the theater erupted in flames and burned all 56 people inside to death. Now, the firefighters, according to reports, determined that the fire itself, that the blaze, had begun at multiple points within the theater. And when I heard that, I thought, well, maybe people spontaneously combusted, individually spontaneously combusted. And that's what led to a much larger fire. Then I was thinking, if there was a fire, I mean, were people trying to get out of the building? Were the doors locked? Was there someone that was working the front end that locked the doors? You know, were there bars over the window? I think there were bars over the outside windows. I mean, you don't have windows in a theater anyway, but just on the outside, was the front door locked? Like, how did people get trapped in this theater and they all just burned to death? That's a lot of people to die. And I mean, did the person that was working the front desk die, who rips the tickets? I don't know any of that. I'm not sure how long of an investigation it would take to find that out. This is just the basic information that I've come across. Now, 5 years later, again, in 1993, a San Francisco theater, because it was cool, hip, and trendy, some of these, you know, what I would imagine to be the side chair, side arm. So we say sidearm quarterbacks. These are like the sidearm Satanists that don't really want to do Satan's work. They just want to act like they're doing Satan's work, and they like movies like this. So the San Francisco theater shows the film. And before the film was over, once again, people began to hurt each other, turned into this frenzied panic. And I've heard stories that several people died, 30 or so people died. I've also heard stories where one person died, a woman who was pregnant. So I guess technically two people died. And depending on what state you live in, if you live in New York, that was one death. But the case of the San Francisco theater was that the popcorn and the butter, and I was thinking this when I was watching this short documentary, the popcorn and the butter was laced with LSD. So somebody intentionally poisoned the people in the theater. So you have to consider that going back to 1988 in Budapest, that maybe someone committed mass murder and burned the theater down. Maybe someone had planted devices that would ignite in the theater, and maybe they weren't trying to kill people. Maybe they were just trying to, light the theater on fire. Maybe people would run out and the movie would get more. And I'm not saying anyone involved with the original making of the movie was involved in this, but I'm saying that maybe someone tried to do it as some form of publicity stunt, maybe for the theater, or maybe someone just wanted to literally watch the theater burn and support this urban legend. All things that you have to, I think, consider. Now, coming to the modern day, as I mentioned earlier, there's a producer who wanted to find this movie, so he finds it. He teams up with a company called Uncorked Entertainment, and they make a small little documentary about it, and then they stick the film into this full-length presentation, and you can watch it on some streaming services. And it's also in Japan. I think they're showing it in some theaters. I'm not sure now or if that's coming soon. So I looked up the name Antrum, and if you look up the name Antrum, it's a term that you'd probably find in the anatomy section of your textbook, if you will. You find it in a dictionary, and it basically means a cavity or some kind of chamber in a bone or other anatomical structure. And that makes sense for why the movie's called Antrum, in my view. Maybe there's another explanation, but this makes sense because the movie essentially is a dog that dies. Two kids try to save their dog's soul, and so they go into the woods and they start to dig a hole to hell. In other words, they're digging a pit to hell, a cavity within the earth, hell being within the bowels of the earth in some traditions. So that's why it's called Antrum. And it's supposed to be cursed because of everything I've just shared with you. And then I would suggest, as a side note, as a little sticky note, it's not just movies that are cursed. Think about television shows. Think about music. That's not necessarily cursed, but that is engineered in a way. So rather than it being simple entertainment, and rather than it simply selling you a product like a soda, or some candy product placement, or a Starbucks in Game of Thrones, something like that, what it's actually selling you, even beyond political agendas and ideologies of one side or another, it's selling you the idea that you should. If you've ever seen the television show called Evil, there's a episode of Evil where there's this song that is stuck in people's heads, and they repeat it over and over and over again. And it's so powerful that these young girls, the only ones that can hear it, people under 16 years old, because of the frequency, there's another sound underneath of the song that people can't hear unless they're young. These girls try to damage their eardrums so they can get it out of their head. And it turns out that someone goes through the audio and they're able to extract the frequency and I guess change it so that adults can hear it. And rather than it just being a fun or silly song, it was actually a guy's voice saying, down for results, across for attention. If you want to kill yourself, cut your wrists or your arm all the way down. It was a song, but engineered into the song, unbeknownst to the person who used the song as an influencer on YouTube in the television show. I mean, this is representative of real life, Kev.
Yeah.
It was telling kids to commit suicide. So it has the basic elements of internet meme challenges, Momo, Slenderman, Blue Whale, along with some of these other themes that you might otherwise not consider when looking at a movie like Antrum or The Omen or The Exorcist. There's power behind it. And so at the very least, if there isn't something supernatural in the sense of a demon from hell, it's the power of belief, and it's the power by extension of faith and will and intention, which are the key elements in any magical operation. And if you have those things, even if you're not really consciously aware, but you believe in these things, it can cause external physical disturbances in your environment, and you're not even aware of how those things are happening, so we attribute them to some demonic, some evil force.
Wow. You know why I'm saying wow? Because in recent times, when I go back to when Max Egan was on and we were talking about being careful about what we believe, because of the impact that can have in the real world. And it's the power of our minds again. I don't think we really comprehend just how powerful they are and what they get up to. And like Ryan says, even if we're not aware of it, watching one of these movies, watching a piece of art, it can have a really profound effect that, we might not be aware of. It might be a whole lot more subtle. But because it's sowing that seed in there, and because we are little powerful intention generators, even if we don't realize it might be something in our subconscious that's been sown in there, Ryan. But because it's been put in there in a specific way, a specific form, intentionally or unintentionally, because maybe whoever puts these things out, they don't realize the power of the mind of the person viewing it, the observer, what role they play in all of this. Maybe we're literally bringing things to life because of the attention we're paying them.
That's one of my arguments on any music or entertainment industry show I do in the Secret Teachings. It's one of the arguments that I make. Not sure if I'm as good of a writer as I am radio host, but in my book, The Technological Elixir, I make that argument as well. And I think that when we look at the entertainment industry, you look at people like, my girl Billie Eilish, people like Poppy. I have a listener, a friend of the show named Clay, and Clay went to a Poppy concert recently. He's going to write me a little review.
Yeah, I've seen that on your Facebook timeline.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He's going to get me some information on that. He sent me some pictures, but he said something to me today. He said, other than, the few details I'm going to give you and what I saw and what I felt, it felt odd. It felt off. And that's exactly what people told me when I first brought Billie Eilish up, long before she got super ultra famous. Talked to people, did a big show, And the response I got was I asked my kids if they've heard of Billie Eilish, and they all said, they said yes, and but they told me, Mom, Dad, I don't listen to her. There's something wrong. There's not that she's not right. That it's not comfortable to listen to that music. So people, even young kids, really the target, arguably, they're very aware, but it's becoming more blatant. And I think that's why, kids now can even see what people like us have been saying to other adults. That stuff is junk food. Don't listen to it. It's dangerous.
Wow. Ryan Gable, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go on this, the 6th birthday of the Kev Baker Show. Yes, indeed. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. There he is. Yes, he's away to get a quick drink of tea or coffee. And there he is. He's back. He was putting on some light. There he is, man. Amazing transformation has taken place, dude.
It's an alchemical transformation, yes, with the help of the 6th anniversary here.
And I noticed Billy, since we last spoke, she's now the singer of the Bond film. She's on the red carpet at the Brit Awards tonight. She'll be singing there. She'll be getting her awards there. Since you first brought her up to me, and I'd never heard of her until you mentioned her to me, she really has become, wow, the big thing, eh? Everything seems to circulate around her.
I went back to my show called The Abduction of Billie Eilish. I did that almost a year ago. I can't believe it's been that long. And on that show, I'm going to have that posted in the archive at thesecretteachings.info. I have a free archive there as well as the subscription one. And I think I'm going to make a section for some of these shows that I'll give away for free. People can listen.
Oh, no. What have we done? Billy breaks down in tears as she accepts the award after revealing she feels hated. Oh.
Yeah. This is the thing that with Billie Eilish or Poppy and these young musicians, and this is really important for what we were just talking about. Like when I went back and found that show and I was looking at what she was portraying and I was saying that I think that this girl's going to be the next big thing. And then you have parallel, you have people like Greta Thunberg, young girl.
How dare you?
You had that shit on cue.
Oh, don't say that letter. Don't say that letter. That letter's banned around here, man.
You had that on Kev.
I smell a rat with the Billy story. I smell a rat. And the reason being that in the UK right now, there's a massive kind of talking point being raised after...
About what?
Well, it's a celebrity that was quite prominent. She hosted one of these reality shows, Love Island, and unfortunately she took her life the other day. Now, she was pretty much hounded by the media as well, and there's been a lot of push from celebrities talking about new online laws against trolls and this kind of thing. So I'm wondering if Billy's playing up in amongst all of the hype, all of the furore that's kind of been dug up around this right now, because this falls right in with what a lot of the talking points on mainstream media are. And it's going to result in a lot more censorship. A lot more people won't be able to say, anything at all.
It's very much like Greta. She's a young girl, so you can't criticize what she's saying, and you have to believe what she's saying, or you're attacking or abusing a young child. And Billie Eilish is still a teenager. And so any type of response to her music or to her performances that isn't loving and accepting, if someone just says, I didn't really like that made me uncomfortable, well, that would fall probably under the category of hatred. That would fall into the category of trolling. And so that would be, yes, another excuse to censor people, shut them down, because Billie Eilish, she's just a teenager. Don't make fun of her. Don't criticize her. You have to like her music, just like Greta. You have to like what she's saying. You have to believe what she's saying. Yeah. She's just a young girl, and she has a neurological disorder, just like Billy.
Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2 on this, the 6th birthday of the Kev Baker Show, right here on your number one network, Truth Frequency Radio. Yeah, I messaged Chris Geo today. I was reminding him we're 6 years old today. And I remember him and Joe Joseph sitting me down and they're like, that, Kev, you need to do a solo show. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I can do that. What on earth's name would I call it? Oh, don't worry about that, Kev. We've already called it the Kev Baker Show. Yeah, I was told what my show was going to be called. And they were right, because they said, you make yourself the brand. Don't go with some name. People tune in to hear Kev Baker and the guests that he brings onto the show. So here we are, 6 years later. I can't think of a better guest to have with me. And dang, are we getting into some really good topics tonight? The kind of topics that makes Ryan a firm favourite with all of you listeners out there. It's a firm favourite of mine. And, myself and Ryan, off air, we shoot things back and forth. We're a couple of characters, so we are. What you see is what we get. Anyone we attack off air, we've done shows attacking them as well, so don't worry about that. It's not like you're missing anything there, folks. But we were talking during or before the break about Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish. She should just be called Eyelash. But we were taking a look during the break, and Billie's coming out now, and she's saying that she's been attacked by online trolls and all this, and this against a backdrop in the UK of a major story surrounding a celebrity that unfortunately took her own life because of media hounding and more the tabloids. However, though, Ryan, I fear it won't be the tabloids and the mainstream that get censored and get curbed over this kind of thing. It'll be people like you and me, just for basic criticism, that will come under heat for, making people like Billie feel the way she does.
I would suggest that Billie stops taking her Xanax and all of those drugs that she shows you she was taking in that song, and maybe she wouldn't feel so bad about herself, so depressed, because she did a whole song about all the drugs she takes.
She could have done a song where she was an actual angel. A white one with a halo instead of being one that falls from heaven with black wings and covered in black goo and telling people that good girls go to hell and stuff like that, And there's that message again. There's almost that subtle messaging, Ryan. It's okay. It's okay to be bad. It's okay to do that. And, at the end of the day, it's even okay to go to hell.
You'll go to hell. It'll be a great place. So the whole idea there was that if you are a bad girl, you have all the fun. And if you're a good girl, you're not going to have any fun. And all your friends are bad girls. So just come to the dark side. I mean, it's literally like Star Wars. Join the dark side and I'll complete your training. That's what Billie Eilish is telling people.
There we go. There's not Ryan, but Brian.
Happy birthday, KBH.
Hey, KBH, it does the job. I like it. It rhymes with GBH. That's quite cool. But yeah, Germanus, thank you very much, brother. Yeah, Billie, Poppy. I can't remember where we were going there. Sorry, that interrupted my flow.
No, it's okay. It's always good to get that little interruption. You can kind of clean
reset, reset the thoughts. Go for it,
I think that there's an interesting connection between all of this and what we were discussing with the movie Antrum as a real-life version of movies like The Ring or Cigarette Burns. And what that is, and I hashed this thought out for my show tonight, Billie Eilish doesn't just do music where she openly represents the demon ball. She doesn't just do music where she openly represents a fallen angel, black goo, artificial intelligence, much like with Poppy, who actually incorporates AI and computers into her music and tries to act like a robot. These young girls, Poppy's a little older than Billie Eilish, so far as we know.
She looks about 15.
Yeah, she does. She does. She looks really young. She looks way younger than Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
These two girls in particular are at the top, arguably, of especially Billie Eilish with all of her awards, at the top of pop. They're at the top of pop. And they are also instrumental in handing messages of environmentalism to young people. Poppy does that in her music. One of the most famous songs that she has is Time Is Up, where she's not only saying that we need to save the planet, but human beings, you listening, need to die In order to do that, we need to kill human beings. You're like cockroaches. You'll be exterminated. She says that in the song. And that's to a younger, generally speaking, audience, even young adults. Billie Eilish, same thing. She's talking about environmentalism, and her song All Good Girls Go to Hell is supposed to be about the environment, stop burning fossil fuels, and there's oil. And that's there. There's certainly that, present, but then there's other layers on top of it that take us deeper into the occult aspects of it, including demonology and pacts with the devil and things like that. She sings in one of her songs where she starts levitating at the end with her supernatural powers.
You think of that though, Ryan, that this form of programming, the music programming, right in tandem with the Greta message, and we're seeing literally, children. I know it's easy to laugh, right, when they say they've got like eco anxiety and environmental anxiety and things, but can we really blame them? Because they've been the victims of this programming, this mind control, where you're telling kids that really don't know any better. We got one now.
Happy 6 years, Kev. Hollywood and the music industry props these young people up, uses them and spits them out. They end up on drugs and depressed. So many examples.
It's so very, very true. There it really is. And yeah, like I was saying, you've got that tandem, you've got the messaging going on, you've got the schooling going on, you've got the music going on, giving them the same messages. That's powerful stuff.
So you see that, let me ask you that, you see that connection then between Billy, Poppy, Greta?
Yeah, big time.
Okay, so here's how my thoughts work. You follow that through. All these people are very young. Poppy's the oldest, but they're all very young, and they all influence an audience in different ways. Poppy's kind of this subtle underground top pop star. Billie Eilish is the on the surface pop star, and Greta's a worldwide how dare you personality. And when you look at all three of those together, what they're doing is they're doing what the cigarette industry did. They're doing what the milk industry does. They're doing what the sugar industry does. They're doing what food manufacturers do, fast food. Why do you think McDonald's is a clown? To attract 40-year-olds? They have a clown to attract children. The cigarette industry has, flavored cigarettes, not to attract 50-year-olds, but to attract children. They want to get you hooked at a young age so you'll be part of their system, another cog that makes them money and gives them power. You'll be addicted to it. So if you think of that, kind of, the same thing with the music industry, and then in general, just politics, using kids as shields to deflect criticism. What is the ultimate goal? Let me ask you this, Kev. What is the ultimate goal of the environmental message when you factor in we're going to die soon, we have to do something dramatic and drastic? What do they say? What's the only thing we can do to save the environment? The most extreme.
I've said for a while, this is a death cult.
It's a death cult, exactly.
Yeah.
And how different is that than committing suicide because of an internet challenge? And it's directed towards children. And so what they're really telling you in this music, it seems, and what they're really telling you through Greta Thunberg is if you want to save the environment, if you want to save all the animals and the plants, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. No different than the movies that kill in pre, during, and post-production, supposedly, perhaps more powerful than even a movie like Antrum. If you really want to see the power of the entertainment industry, and its ability to get people, to convince people to harm themselves and to harm others under the guise of protecting the environment and protecting the sanctity of life, you don't have to look any further than the entertainment industry as it is today, and the messages of suicide and the raising rates of suicide in the world, especially among the youth.
This makes me think of a tweet that I seen yesterday as well from a quite prominent author, Richard Dawkins. Yes, try to find this here now. Hey, Robin, thank you so much.
6 years, Kev, how dare you?
How dare you, Kev?
How dare you?
Exactly. So here's this tweet here. It might seem unconnected, but for some reason my gut was thinking, that this kind of cult that we're talking about here, Richard Dawkins, You know, it's one thing to deplore eugenics on ideological, political, moral grounds. It's quite another to conclude that it wouldn't work in practice. Of course it would. It works for cows, horses, pigs, dogs, and roses. Why on earth wouldn't it work for humans? Facts ignore ideology. So we're getting people openly talking about eugenics and things against the backdrop of what myself and Ryan are talking about here. No coincidence, I don't think, at all.
There's no coincidence at all. You're exactly right, Kev. I didn't see that tweet. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, 16th of February 2020. Official blue tick for Mr. Richard Dawkins, a UK biologist and writer. Science, the poetry of reality. Good-humoured ridicule of religions. And a promoter of eugenics. Just saying.
See, what exactly is it, Kev, that could convince somebody to abandon self-preservation and accept that they should die and that their family should die to save the environment? See, isn't everybody going to have to die? Of certain groups of people, that is. People like Richard Dawkins gets to live because he's an intellectual. He makes the decisions. It's a death cult, but it's also a cult of personality. I don't get why anyone would think that if you were to support Richard Dawkins and eugenics, why some person in the Midwest in the United States, or some guy in Scotland, or some guy in Australia, some woman in Europe, that you are going to be the person who makes the decision of who lives and who dies. And if you know that you're not going to be that person, you're just willing to line up to the slaughter to save the environment and hand power over to egomaniacs like Richard Dawkins, that is just some serious psychological brainwashing, Kev.
It's really heavy when you start to think about it and you start to piece it all together, you know. And you think about it as well, you go back a little bit in time. We're not too far beyond that 2012 window that everyone was talking about. And a lot of the teenagers that are listening to Poppy and Billy and today, they would have been young at the time. And think of all the talk about the end of the world back then. You know, seeding that thought, you know, there could be an end to the world. Even that then must have put that seed into the minds of children. And I'm sure you would have done shows on 2012. I know I talked about 2012 on some of my YouTube videos and things. You know, this might be a long time in the programming, seeding this little self-deletion program, shall we call it.
It was obviously, you're right, it's been around for a long time. It's been around since before the Second World War. It's been around since the creation of the eugenics movement and the changing of names of publications and foundations and organizations. I mean, the Tavistock Institute today is in essence a eugenics foundation, and so many others, these big think tanks. You think about the nature of the entertainment industry and how many times we've talked about and how many times we've said, when you pay attention to something, you pay with your attention, which is what entertainment is. It's to provide attention to something, to direct attention towards something. And what you're doing is you're projecting, you're paying your energy, which is currency, right? And it's the same thing when you go buy a movie. You pay to go see a movie. When you rent Antrum to watch it, the deadliest movie ever made. When you pay for the internet even to have access to YouTube to watch these videos. When you buy a CD of one of these singers, you're paying with money, which is currency, which is energy. And every time you pay with your attention, every time you pay with your money, and you directionalize your energy, your intent, your will, your faith, your belief toward the symbols, the sigils, the ideas, the themes, the vibrations, the words, everything about that music, about those movies and TV shows, you are feeding into a collective pot of energetic expression, which ultimately forms into the very thing like a tulpa or like a golem or like an egregore that comes to life. And so collectively, you have maybe my generation, maybe the generation after me, Kev, a lot of people that think the only way to save themselves are to kill themselves. And so you really have mass, you could call it mass suicide programming through entertainment. And so again, if you thought, well, The Ring was just a movie, And, well, Antrum, kind of like the ring, but it's just a superstition and a gimmick. Sure, maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But, the entertainment industry and music, that's actually getting people to change their minds and programming people in a way that an hour and a half movie can't do. Because what's in those songs and what's in those music videos when you watch and when you listen to them is imagery that is so specifically and particularly placed. Every scene, every flash of light, every lyric. So you're getting the subliminal messages that you would get in an hour and a half movie, all of them, all at once in a 2 or 3 minute song. That has to, I would imagine, overload the subconscious, pouring over into the conscious mind, and then it gets catchy. And even for people like me, for people like you, Kev, and I know a lot of listeners, you listen to it, and it's in your head.
Dude,
so for
this
people
is what
that
I was
don't
going to
know,
say. That's what I was going to say to you. Even me and you, we both said on separate occasions, I can't get this damn tune out of my head. And I've noticed as well, when it comes to Billy's music, and obviously she's going to be the singer of the Bond song, her music's featured quite a lot in TV shows. She seems to provide a lot of the tracks. They go to her a lot. Uncannily so. Often I sit there and go, not again. Another Billie Eilish track in a TV show. But, maybe when we start adding things together, it should have been obvious that they would use somebody in their TV shows like that because of the catchiness, right?
yes, because of the catchiness and because of maybe whatever it is that's embedded within that music, frequencies that we can't readily hear, maybe frequencies, maybe it'd be interesting maybe to play some of that music and see how your dog reacts. You know what I mean? Just see
Jimmy
if there's
Jeans, he's the kind of guy that plays things backwards and things. Imagine you
yeah,
played that backwards, dude. There's got to be stuff in there. But you see, if you go looking for stuff when you play it backwards, I think audio pareidolia, if there's even such a thing, takes over. You end up, because it's not a sound, it's nothing. Your brain needs a point of reference and it starts making it sound like things, if that makes sense.
it makes perfect sense. Let me ask you though, what do you think of Antrum? What do you think of, the association with cinema that kills and its relationship further to the entertainment industry and music in particular?
I think you got to look at the higher kind of end of the entertainment scene as well. And it's not everyone. I don't believe everyone out there is some kind of dark occultist or anything. However, I think Stanley Kubrick gave us a good look into that world with Eyes Wide Shut. And I do think there's some really dark energy that's flowing about there. You go Hollywood, we spoke about the Hollywood before, the magic. So all the conditions are set. And then maybe it's something to do with when you this idea, transforming an idea, a script, a screenplay into something physical, into something that's going to go out there into the real world. It's almost as if you're doing the physical process of building the tulpa. You're building the full movie from an idea, from a thought form. And does that have some kind of ramifications out into the real world, all that creative energy? Actors, actresses, very, very, deep people at the best of times. Maybe that energy itself, I don't know, but I do think there's something to it. And at the same time, I'm quite open to the fact that there's probably a few things thrown in around movies to make them a bit more marketable. No such thing as bad publicity. You get a horror movie getting ready for release, you start releasing stuff about a curse around it, you're going to multiply the box office value. But I do think there's something real to it. And that Antrum, it's not very often I'm kind of sitting there thinking to myself, dang, how have I never heard of this before? And that gut feeling that there's something to this. And again, maybe it's just clever marketing, that feeling that you're getting to maybe see something you shouldn't see. But you can't take away those 2 theatre fires. And I pulled an article up earlier that shows over 80 people have lost their lives after watching this thing. So there's definitely something there, man. What it is, I can't fully put my finger on it. But there's a power there.
Think about one of the recent movies I went to see, which was a total waste of money, was Star Wars. And when I went to see that movie, Kev, I walk in to the building and get my ticket, and I go back, and there's a sign on the door going into the theater that says if you are sensitive to flashing lights, things like that, don't see this movie or proceed with caution. And if you want a refund, we'll refund you, get you another ticket to another movie. And I was just reminded of that when thinking of some of the ways that people have died after watching Antrum. And I thought, well, what if I was to go into that movie and I was sensitive to those things and I had a seizure? Did I have a seizure because Star Wars is some evil, dark, satanic movie, or did I have a seizure because I have some neurological problem?
It's like me when I think about Friday the 13th. Is it really an unlucky day, or is it that I was building myself up for a week before it, and I was the one that created all my bad luck on that day,
Yes, exactly. Same with what is your Mercury retrograde?
Oh,
right?
Don't even go there. Me and Joe Joseph learnt the hard way, dude. We had like techno problems for weeks. We still joke about it now. We don't want to get burnt by anything astrological again, dude. No.
No, you gotta have protection against that.
But you see, this is the thing, and we do laugh and joke, but never ever mistake that, folks, for me not appreciating the energetic nature of everything. And I mean everything, down to the very cells that we're made up of, That everything is vibration, everything's energy, everything carries a potential to send ripples out into what is just a field of potential. And it makes you wonder how then. I often say it, and I've said it more in recent times, and it sounds new agey, but we really are powerful intention generators. Even at the time of the Australian fires, I don't know what came over me, but I was telling people, just think about it. Try and send rain there. Now, I'm not saying that we sent rain there, but the amount of people that are into doing that and didn't find that out of the ordinary, I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I thought people would laugh. Now, again, it rains in Australia. Was that caused because people were thinking about it? Or was it always going to rain? You can never tell. But I do think that if we come together, that collective mind, there's a hell of a lot of power in that. Hell of a lot.
If you watch a movie, Kev, and you might not feel this way, but someone probably. You watch a movie and someone's touched by the film and they cry a little bit, right?
Oh, I'm like that all the time, man. Dang.
So Kev's watching a movie and he starts crying. Well, that movie had an effect on you. It wasn't satanic or demonic. It was just emotionally moving because the people that, it could have been the writing, it could have been the lighting, it could have been the cinematography, it could have been a combination of all those things in the better movies, but it all came together and it made you feel something. It moved you emotionally. We also watch movies where it's just really silly, stupid, fun comedy. And so we laugh, and we laugh so much maybe that we start hurting. With horror, it's a little bit different because horror, we don't really want to experience horror in the real world. I don't think you really want someone chasing you with a chainsaw or, trying to kill you or, being chased by a bunch of zombies or something like that, if you can imagine that. But we want to be able to experience it and get that adrenaline rush without the consequences of being chased by somebody with a chainsaw. So we can watch a movie, TV show, something that is scary and spooky, and we don't have to actually live it. I would imagine a lot of people listen to shows like this, Kev, the Kev Baker Show, KBS, and they have for 6 years, because you provide stories and guests who tell spooky stories, spooky experiences. Yeah. And you don't actually have to live through that. Other people, of course, to be fair, listen because they have lived through that and they want to feel like they're not the only ones, right? So the point is, though, you can feel that way from watching a movie. If you can feel that way from watching a romantic comedy or from watching some silly other kind of comedy, and you feel that way from watching horror or whatever the genre might be, why couldn't you collectively, if the movie was powerful enough, and it has moved generations. Star Wars was powerful enough from when it came out until the modern day. Every single year since it came out, it has been so powerful. It's changed culture. Movies have the ability to do that. Art has the ability to do that. And through that art manifests other things depending on the will and the intention of those who place them there during production or after. That's my summary.
No, that's I'd never thought about, that whole horror thing, when you're watching the horror, You don't want horror in your real life. You're right about that. What is it we find so compelling? I often say to Anne nowadays, can't find a good horror movie. They're not like they used to be. Like The Omen, that used to scare me to death, but it was great. And then when I was growing up as well, we had something called Hammer House of Horrors, and it was Peter Cushing's Dracula, really kind of cheesy, corny stuff, but good stories, edge of your seat stuff, and jumping about. But nowadays, some of them are like these psychological type kind of horror movies you get, but I don't know, they're more subtle nowadays. But you still go back looking for that feeling, looking for that energy that it seems to generate in you. It's a weird one. Our need to look for the monsters, folks. What's that all about? We'll come back after the break. One more segment to go with Ryan. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, I'm talking about watching things and getting emotional. There's a song by somebody called James Blunt. You heard of James Blunt, right?
I've
Probably.
heard the name. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard the name.
he's got a song out, and it's about his father, and his father's in stage 4 kidney, really bad off anyway. I think he might have had a transplant now, but it's just James Blunt sitting there at a kitchen table, and he's singing about how he's not his son, and you're not the father anymore, and how the roles have reversed really over time, and he's looking after his dad now, and he's sitting there and he's sitting with his dad, and I tell you what, dude, if anyone can watch that performance with a dry eye, I have no idea. They must be psychopathic. I've never seen anything quite as moving in all my life, and it's one of these songs. Every time you listen to it, dude, it just gets you. And I think I was listening to a vocal coach talking about it today, and I think he nailed it. It's because if you're a dad yourself, and you'll get this. If you're a dad yourself, you picture you being in the dad's position, and your son, eventually having to look after you. And that's a horrible thing to think. You're the one that's usually there for them. But it just shows you the power that can be contained in one of these, just a song, really powerful, man. And nothing dark going on there, but it's one of these songs that, like I say, if there's a dry eye in the house, dang, good going. I'm telling you.
That makes me think, because that's something that touches you at a soul or spirit
it
level.
is. It's like really, even the vocal coach says, I can't even like critique this. And he was crying, totally crying. Even feel like welling up myself, just saying, you need to listen to it, dude. It's something else. But yeah, because you can, I don't know, it just resonates with his soul, man.
So why is it then that a similar theme, let's use Black Billie Eilish Goat as an example. Her, her song "Bury a Friend." I know you've seen that, and that's about supposedly the death of a friend. Why is it when people watch that though they don't cry, but they watch it and they think this is really, really disturbing? I don't want to watch this, but I can't look away. It has me mesmerized.
Yeah.
Well, why am I not crying? I mean, that should be a song that I feel saddened by, but I don't.
It's amazing how it generates different feelings, right?
Yes, and that's because of the usage of the, well, in the case of that song in particular, the usage of the archetypical images and what they're showing you. It's not a feel-good song. It's a sad, depressing song. That's the mood and the feeling that they're going for. So I guess the spirit and the soul that are touched by what you described, Kev, are void, I would argue, in songs like that, Bury a Friend.
Big time, dude. That's a totally different feeling altogether, and yet the Bury a Friend, it probably gets stuck in your head more. Catchier.
Yeah, don't start singing it, please.
No, exactly. Once you hear that, dude, and all you need is a couple of bars, and that's you. You've got it. It's in there. It's going again.
You want to know how many times I listen?
Here we go.
Okay,
I'll ask you when we come back. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. final part of today's 6th anniversary of the Kev Baker Show. In case I hadn't mentioned it already, 6 years old. I say six. Yes, that was three sixes. Very subtly done there. Not. But no, we're talking about the entertainment industry. And during the break, we were talking about how songs make you feel. And how some songs, they pull on the heartstrings versus some songs that make you feel a little uncomfortable, but yet you still kind of feel drawn to them. And those are the ones that get stuck in your head. And myself and Ryan were having a laugh and a joke. He was telling me, don't start singing it. If I was to sing anything, you wouldn't recognize it in the first place. It wouldn't sound like anything. It'd be horrible. But yeah, how many times have you listened to that then, Ryan, do you think?
How many times have I listened to Bury a Friend?
Yep.
30 or 40.
Dang, dude. That must be painful.
It is, but I got all that out of my head, and then something must have triggered Lady Gaga. I mean, I was watching American Horror Story, so I think that's what it was. And it triggered Lady Gaga, and I've listened to the song Applause today at least 20 times, and it's in my head. I can't get it out.
What is that about that, man? There's something when these songs get in your head.
I don't even like it, and I know you too. You don't necessarily like it, right?
No, it's like the Billie Eilish one, and there's a Poppy one as well. I can't remember the name of it. I can't suffer them. Everything we've spoke about them, and they're not my kind of music, even if we hadn't spoke about them, But now there's something annoyingly, irritatingly catchy, and they just embed themselves. We've all been there. Everybody knows a song like that. You just can't get it out your head. These ones seem to be just a bit kind of more profound, bit heavier.
Well, it's not like the classical songs. Like whatever the era is and the genre of music, I'm not really a music person per se. I didn't really grow up with music. I knew a lot of hip hop and rap music and stuff like that. I didn't really grow up with music, but I still know the classical songs. Like I can't necessarily tell you who sings it, but if you tell me the name, I know who that is. I mean, those songs are popular, I would argue, for different reasons. With technology today, which leads us to AI inevitably making music and artists being either the face, well, more so, but less so. In the case of AI, the artists are just the face for the AI. But AI making music, just with our ability to use computers to make music, as opposed to what it was like 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago making music, there's a way to manipulate it and a way to engineer it to make it more and more catchy. Just like with food science, there are ways to make food more and more palpable so we'll eat more and more and more and more and more of the food. You want to sell a product, right? Whether that's food or that's music or whether that's a movie or a TV show. And you'll do anything to sell it. I mean, hey, this actress was scratched by a demon on set. That's good publicity. Or maybe it's bad publicity. A bunch of people got struck by lightning. Some film people died after they watched the movie. It's good publicity. It's powerful. And maybe just simply because of that, the publicity itself leads to an urban legend that forms. And that urban legend leads to a strong belief in some people who maybe watch a film or listen to music, and then as a result of being so afraid of it, they have a heart attack. They're scared of it. I mean, people have had heart attacks watching scary movies before. That doesn't mean it's because of the devil. So I think the key here, we were talking about at break. You were talking about a song that was very soulful, and it just it makes you cry. And in comparison with that kind of, I don't know if you want to explain that again, but in comparison with that, when you parallel it with some of this newer music, and not all of it, but just some of the music, the specific music, the types of music that is award winning always, no matter how terrible it is, like a lot of Billie Eilish's stuff, it might be about the same thing, but it's done in a way to make you feel disturbed. It's done in a way where after Bury a Friend, when I watched that video, I felt like my phone was going to ring and someone was going to tell me I had 7 days to live, Kev. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And yeah, you got that song I was talking about, Monsters by James Blunt. And as it's kind of to do with death, with losing somebody, his dad, he's terminally ill. So, he was singing about that And I don't know, but that song, it's not just me. I mean, even he's been on like daytime TV speaking about it. Piers Morgan, he's another one. And not that I ever find myself comparing myself or anything and similar, or you know, any link between myself and Piers Morgan. But he said it too. And there's no way he can watch that without bursting out crying. And he was asking James Blunt, "How the hell did you manage to sing it?" You know. And then you compare that feeling you get from that song, something like that, to a similar message in a Billie Eilish song, and it just isn't the same. It sticks with you, but in a different way. I don't know, and that's what we were talking about during the break. It's just weird. And music, it's really, really powerful. You know, Ryan was talking about how movies, they can really change culture. And, you know, music, same thing. It's a very powerful tool if wielded correctly. And that's the thing, because these people that are promoting the very top pop artists today, they know exactly the power in the music and the visuals that go along with it. I know you've looked at some of the people behind these actual videos, because, you know, it's the directors and who puts them together, and you see a commonality, right? It's the same people all the time.
That's right. It's usually the same people. I find it interesting that in the case of Billy Goat, her brother is writing the music.
He's got a weird name. What's his name? Like Seamus O'Finnegan or something like that?
It's like Phineas and Ferb or something.
Yes, Phineas O'Fagan. Weird name. And he just doesn't look, I don't know, he just looks out of place. But seemingly they write all the music together. Am I to believe this? They penned like the Bond movie when they were younger and things, really? You know?
Yeah. You know what? I was just thinking about that last night, as a matter of fact, and I was just laying down and I was thinking, her music in particular, but even Miley Cyrus, and, you know, you could argue a lot of different people, but just for these people we're talking about tonight, and some of this stuff, even the movies, like you don't just sit down and get this idea. I mean, the people that put those kinds of movies together, I mean, even like The Exorcist, they do a lot of research into what would be what would be more realistic, if you will.
Yeah, what makes it authentic? What's a real kind of exorcist do? What does it look like?
Yeah, precisely. And, you know, not everything's as realistic. You got the Ouija board and stuff like that. And I've got a Ouija board, an original. It hasn't erupted in flames. But you have to study it to make it realistic. And I understand, you know, there are savants. There are people that you can fly over Paris and they'll memorize every window in every building and can draw it for you. I get that. But I have a hard time believing that Black Billy Goat is a savant, and I have a hard time believing her brother's a savant. So that makes me think there's no possible way that a girl that young or a boy that young has the capacity or the time, for that matter, unless they were raised on it from the first step they took, to have such a vast understanding of theology and demonology and occultism and magic and the other powerful imagery that they utilized, whether that's witchcraft. I mean, they're pulling stuff, Kev, out of books that I have like rare copies of from the 18th, 17th, 16th century. There's no way. Things that I came across randomly, you know, things that occultists spend their whole lives studying. There's no way they just figure that out. She's a 17-year-old girl. Oh, look at this book I found. And then, oh, let's put that in a song. No. The people that are really writing it and then giving it to her brother to give to her, they're the ones that, like you said, are behind all the same artists who do all the same types of songs, all the same types of videos. Those are the people that do study this. You might as well have literally Aleister Crowley could be the author for some of this stuff.
Yep.
Or H.P. Lovecraft. That's who these people are studying.
Big time. And it makes you wonder, because I remember reading an interview at the time when Billy had been selected for the new James Bond song. It was weird, because like you're saying, she's like, 18 years old, and yet she's talking about how her and her brother, this has been their lifelong dream since they were young kids, to sing this song for Bond. What? Really? What kind of life, what kind of childhood did you have if you were being brought up with this, you know, you're going to sing for Bond? Dang, dude, I got some really disturbing images of their childhood after that. I really did. You know?
I mean, I would think obviously that's publicity, but on that that humorous note, yeah, like what was her mom asked her when she was like 12, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she's like, I want to sing the James Bond theme.
I had pictures of her when she's 3, some of her first words. James Bond, James Bond. I'm going to sing James Bond. Yeah, whatever.
How
She's doing
dare
it.
you?
Oh, I know, Greta. I know. We can't pick on younger people, but come on. We're just expressing our own art here. That's all. That's what we're doing, aren't we, Ryan? We're just painting our own picture with our own lyrics. Yes.
That's all that we're doing, Kev. But
Yep.
but we're doing it. Nobody's giving us those lyrics.
Now, well, are we channeling them though? Are we
Could
getting them
be
from
chanting it.
special places and one-eyed sources and things like that? You never know. Yeah.
You know what? We talked about that Antrum movie and the story about the LSD and the popcorn in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the devil's advocate of that would be, although someone did poison it and investigators found that someone poisoned it intentionally, some people would say that the person who poisoned it
Was a
possessed.
conduit, a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because maybe, but it's not too concrete for me, so I can't give it too much credit.
No, I could go along with that. Because I often even say, where do our own thoughts come from? Are they really our own thoughts, or do they come from somewhere else? And if we are having our own thoughts, are they really our own thoughts, or did we pick them up somewhere else? So could somebody be influenced in a way to carry out a deed in this realm on behalf of something energetic not here? Absolutely.
Well, even today, I spent my entire day inside. I prepped for my show. I get ready for your show. I did a little bit of reading, made a montage, and I was
A very good montage as well, may I add. Yes.
Thank you very much, Kev. I was just something triggered it. I don't know what it was. It could have been food I ate. It could have been a sound I heard, but something triggered it. I mean, I just suddenly started hearing in my head, the applause, applause, applause. I live for the applause, applause. So I turned it on YouTube and I watched the thing like 20 times. I just couldn't get it out of my head. Who knows where stuff comes from?
Exactly.
Memories, sounds, sights, colors, smells, tastes.
Yeah, it's weird what prompts us to think about certain things. I've thought about that before. Almost like triggers. Some you recognize, some you don't, Really weird. Again, it's all to do with the power of these things. That's obviously in your head. It's seeded in there somewhere. Something brought it to the surface. Who knows, man?
Yeah, something brings it to the surface. It could be a smell, a taste, a touch, seeing something. All the senses help to trigger those memories. Although you did not give me a trigger warning, and you're supposed to do that.
Yep.
Because I'm not in my safe space.
I know. But you know what I'm like, dude? I'm not exactly the king of wokeness. So I'm the king of anti-wokeness.
For 6 years.
Yes, for 6 years. How many is that? 6? That'll be 3 6s again. Yes, indeed. So we've got about, 10 minutes left, dude? So, the deadliest movie ever made. Let's wrap it up again. Antrum. We've got The Exorcist. What's your final thoughts on it, Ryan? How much power is behind one of these movies?
I think the ultimate power rests within the individual and within the collective. The belief and the faith that something can happen from watching a movie, and the will, even if it's subconscious, to kind of want to bring that about.
It's almost like the placebo as well, the power of the mind.
Yes, the power of the mind. And of course, the intention. I've done a couple of shows on Slender Man, for example, Momo and 3 a.m. game and all that, the suicide challenges. I did a show last year, and I remember preparing the show. It was early last year, it was over a year ago. And preparing the show, and I sat down and I listened over and over again, all these clips, and I was making a montage. And I went to the living room, watched a movie, and then I heard something in my room. Went to my room, and I have a Ouija board, but it's a cloth, nailed to the wall. I have a golden, it's like bronze ankh nailed to the wall, and I have a pentagram nailed to the wall. This was my last studio, the last place I had, and it fell. The nails came out of the wall. The thing fell. Now, same night, I wake up. It's like, I think it was the same night. It was around the same time. I wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and a brand new hose to my toilet had popped off and was spraying water everywhere. But exactly like I woke up at 3 a.m. when I was studying this. So subconsciously, I don't think that was Slender Man in my apartment. I think that was me projecting outward my energy field, and it affects these things physically. And I wasn't wanting to necessarily bring this up tonight, but I think it's a good point, because I don't necessarily believe that there's some demonic force. I think that's the anthropomorphic characteristics that we give to it, like lust or greed or sloth or whatever, with the 7 deadly sins and the various demons that represent those sins or other types of sins. But I'm sitting here last night doing the Antrum show, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I'm doing the Antrum show. And I don't know if you can see there in the background over my shoulder, I've got 2, looks like little tan yellowish documents on the wall, right? It's a U.S. Constitution, a Declaration of Independence. Those things have been hanging there for about 7-8 months, as long as I've lived at this new place. And in the middle of the show, I hear something fall. I look behind me, and they fell off the wall. Now, do I think that's because I watched some of Antrum? I really don't. I think it's me projecting through my mind, through belief, not even will or intention, but just the subconscious belief, because my conscious mind is saying no. The subconscious belief that brief interaction I had with that cursed film, the deadliest film ever made, projected outward and physically had an effect and knocked that stuff off the wall. Because I don't know, Kev, I'm all about coincidences sometimes, but of all the things to fall at any time, nothing has ever fallen in this new apartment, and that falls right when I start the Antrum show.
I'm with you.
Here, my mind.
Yeah, I'm with you, 110%. If you'd said to me, I think that film had caused that, Kev, I'd have had a word with you after the show. I'd have thought, don't know, Ryan. No, I'm with you. I honestly believe we generate a whole lot more things than we'd be comfortable knowing about, from Slender Man. That in itself, I've seen people in the chat room earlier on, that still today, that thing that was just born out of a competition online, that still has real world effects on people, just saying Slender Man, So I really do think, Ryan, that was caused by your subconscious, probably because you've been so consciously thinking about the fact that these things can't happen. It's one of those universal kind of quirks. Well, he's so consciously thinking that there can't be anything to that. Well, the subconscious will just kind of knock that wave, that probability, that possibility into probability,
Certainly. But I also think we should dismiss other supernatural forces. Not in that case, but in general, because I believe that those things exist as well. Spiritual things, if you will, outside of the line of visual observation.
Definitely. People can call them demons, archons, jinn. It doesn't matter. It's an energy. I think it's all of the above. It depends what your own personal belief system's going to be, how you kind of describe what these energies are. But there is definitely something very real to the supernatural. In fact, it almost goes hand in hand with this normal world. You can't have one without the other, it would seem. And the lines between both worlds, for whatever reason, seem to be getting more porous. And the worlds seem to be coming together more and more the further in time we go, Ryan. Which is the point where the supernatural then drops the super and it just becomes the normal, And
it's something that happens throughout the yearly cycle as well. Halloween, the veil between both worlds is supposed to thin.
Yep.
We know the history of that with trick-or-treating and going to scowling and leaving out candy or food to appease the evil spirits and to welcome the positive spirits, relatives and stuff. So yeah, that happens, and I would imagine in a yearly cycle, but it also perhaps happens in decades and centuries, and depending on perhaps where I get it, maybe the Earth's flat, but where the Earth is in its orbit around the sun, and in relationship to the center of the galaxy.
Yep.
You know, the flat galaxy, of course, Kev, flat Earth, flat sun, all the flat stuff. But I think that's probably the macrocosm, but the microcosm, as above, so below, is the galaxy, if you will. That is a part of what you're, when you say in here, yeah, it's your physical heart, but it's also the seat of the soul.
Yep.
So it's the soul, it's the animating characteristics of what makes you you, the spirit, the emotion, all of those things, the personality. And that's really the microcosm. When you combine the two things together, I mean, that is what magic is: will, intention, belief, faith, all those things, projecting them outward and attempting to attract in a pure way, not what you desire, like what you want, but attracting what you need, even if it's a painful experience.
Ah, dude, and we're almost at the end again already. It's been a quick show. I have had a blast. It's one of these ones I'm going to have to listen to again. Sometimes when I get engrossed in the conversation, by the time the show's finished, I think, what happened in that segment? So I'll go back and I'll listen to this one again. I want to thank you, Ryan, for being here today and for being here through all the shows we've done and all the shows we've got to come in the future. And obviously I'll be back on your show as well, hopefully, if I'm invited. I'm not just inviting myself there. That was rather kind of presumptuous of me. But no, I look forward to us working more in the future. And, you know, the longer time goes on, the crazier this world gets. There's never going to be a shortage of stuff for us to talk about, dude. Unless we get banned from talking negatively about these crazy pop stars that we love to tune into.
You're always invited on the Secret Teachings, and I invite listeners to send an email to rdgable@yahoo.com. Check us out on the Fringe FM 5 nights a week. The website is thesecretteachings.info. And say a few things as quick as I can here with the time remaining. One, I do want to sincerely thank you, Kev, for having me on the show. I realized today how many shows we've done together and how positive that's been for what I do in my show, having your listeners come to my show. I'm also, I started my fundraiser on my show. I'm not going to plug that here, but I started my fundraiser on my show for Contact in the Desert. So
oh, dude, are you going to be welcome there?
I'm totally welcome because the con men are not showing up this year.
Oh, no, they went to ESETI, didn't they? They had their big get-together at Gilligan's Island or something, didn't they?
Yeah, with the Wonder Twins.
Yeah. I hope... I'm quite disappointed in a way that they're not going to Contact in the Desert. I would imagine this year when you go, I've got a funny feeling you're going to get your hand shaken a lot. Because probably people might not have known you when you were there last year. But I can guarantee after the fallout after you went there, people will know Ryan Gable now. And I think they'll thank you for challenging these bleach drinking, crazy people that are convinced that blue chickens are coming to save the world.
The bleach. I forgot about the bleach. Yeah. I'll tell you something else, too. Don't be afraid to message me. I don't know what this is, Kev, but I keep getting these stories of people that they like my show, but they're afraid to talk to me. Just message me. I'm not going to yell at you or something. I don't yell. Do I yell at you, Kev, in private?
No. Ryan is one of the most down-to-earth, approachable dudes out there. I must admit, most of the people you come across in this kind of world, alternative media, they're just real people, honestly. So give them a message, yeah.
Even the big names. So
now Robin in the chat room's asking before we go, we have to have one word from the Texas big man on my birthday.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
And of course myself and Ryan are both self-confessed Jonesaholics. We both freak out when Owen Schroyer's taking over. We both absolutely hate his poor imitation of Alex Jones. But every day, ain't we there, brother? We're there religiously, right?
They taste like candy bars.
Oh, meet my tummy.
Delicious vanilla.
Dude, you are a rare treat. You really, really are. I've had a blast tonight. We've talked about some really creepy, really kind of weird movie stuff. And I'd never heard of this Antrum thing before. And that's what I like about you. You always bring something new to the table, and that always makes me thinking. That's what it's all about. Because if you're thinking, then you're alive. That's the way to keep the brain going, folks. Just keep on thinking, keep looking, keep searching, keep researching, and yeah, can't promise you'll always find the answers to the biggest questions you have, but dang, enjoy the journey, because like Bill Hicks says, it's just a ride. So Ryan, when can people hear your show before we get out of here?
5 nights a week, Monday through Friday, on the Fringe FM, the Fringe.fm. TheSecretTeachings.info is my website with the massive show archive. You can subscribe to that. You get a free book right now with your subscription. Details of that on the website. And also on the website, a number of new archives with free shows, all the Kev Baker shows and the Ground Zero shows and all that. It's all at TheSecretTeachings.info. Kev, thanks so much and congrats on 6.
Thank you, brother. Big shout out to Clyde and Ron over at Ground Zero as well. Check them out. Folks, stay tuned. We've got Joe Joseph, the Freedom Link, on the way. I'll be back tomorrow. Open lines tomorrow. Yes, my show becomes your show, so bring your woo. Wherever you are, make it TFR.
Censorship and regulation.
There we go, there we go. And that was the dulcet tones of Mr. Geo there. Obviously, big shout out to the Geos for putting up with me for 6 years. How anyone can do that. Only my mother has put up with me longer, and that's only because she was my mother and she had to.
I barely got through 2 hours, Kev.
I know, I'm a hella man. I know, I know. Even I don't like my own company. I'm only joking. But dude, no, thank you for tonight. Sharon in the chat room says that she thinks you should contact her. So I don't know what that's all about. You winning yourself some lady friends on the Kev Baker show? I like it, dude. I like it.
Well, that's the only reason I come on the Kev Baker show.
Yeah, you see, I knew it. I knew it. Nah. Big shout out to everyone in the chat room. Honestly, thank you all so much. We were tickling 300 for most of the show there. Really, really good. Got all the TFR audience as well, folks. I've had a blast today. You know, 6 years on TFR, more years doing YouTube, but it's this Kev Baker show. Since we started doing this, things have really changed for the better. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been tears, there's been laughs. There's been good guests, there's been downright bad guests. But we've been real, and we'll continue to keep it real, and I'll never tell you what to think. I don't even know myself what to think half the time. But what I will continue to do, with the help of Ryan and many others, is give you what I consider the best opinions, the best information for you then to go and do your bit. You know, nobody can do this waking up for you. Nobody can walk this path you're on for you either. Only you can do that. And I just hope people like me and Ryan, we can give you stuff to think about along the way. You don't have to agree with us. In fact, at times, it's really good if you let us trigger you. Because when you're triggered, then you're in that state where you have to really think about, well, what was it that rubbed me up the wrong way there? How is it somebody I can listen to most of the time says one thing and I react so badly? Don't think about what it was I said. Think about what it was that made you react. And then, you know, you might think about something different. Maybe you won't. But I think that's the best we can hope for, Ryan, right? Because nobody's going to have all of the answers. And I'll be wrong more times than I'm right. But I promise all of you out there, I do everything on here with the best of intentions. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else with any other people. So yeah, I've had a blast tonight. And I think this has been the perfect way to round out the 6th birthday. Any final thoughts, Ryan, before we go?
No, tonight's show was like the finale, the fireworks finale. But it starts you off.
Yes, indeedy.
6
indeedy.
years.
And then tomorrow, I'll open up the phones, and you listeners can be the people that kick off the next 6 years. Oh, yes, indeed. What am I lining myself up for? No, it's always good when we open the phone. So we're out of here, folks. Thank you again. If you are new to the channel, please leave a thumbs up.
How dare you?
Oh, well, I didn't even press that time. No, I did. I'm only joking. It wasn't The Curse of Antrum. I can't remember the name of the damn film now. I've
Antrum.
got Anthem in my head because it's a computer game. But yeah, Antrum. You see.
I hear you over there stealing her childhood. Don't do that.
I am. Well, I would, but her parents stole it long ago. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
A lot of children are having their childhood stolen, winning Grammy awards and, climbing to the top of the music chart.
Yeah, I mean, Billy, going to her awards ceremony tonight in her golden carriage, basically red carpet material, multi-millionaire, mansions all around the world, but I have to feel sorry for her because she got a bit of online trolling.
I think that her star will burn quickly, and that golden carriage will turn into a pumpkin within a couple of years. That's just my...
Unfortunately, I tend to agree with you. And in the end of the day, folks, never forget, these are real people too. They've got real stories, and how they got to where they are today makes you wonder. And some of the stuff they may have had to go through to get to where they are today. That gives you pause for thought as well. So hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Oh, sorry, Ryan, on you go.
No, I just said yes. I was agreeing with...
Yeah, because, these kids, and they are that. They're kids in music industry, acting. I don't know, it's kind of toxic. You see a lot of horror stories, how people's lives spiral out of control. Very few make it, when they start off that young in the industry. It kind of chews them up and spits them out. And even the ones that do make it, look at how they turn out later on down the road. Britney Spears shaving the hair, anyone? Yeah, so as much as it's entertaining and we laugh and we joke about some of these characters, at the same time, I'm very aware that if I was probably to know the childhoods, the lives they've had, maybe it would give me a different way of looking at them. But that doesn't change what they're putting out. It doesn't mean they're not still vehicles for these messages, these sigils, these symbols, and everything else that they're putting out there into the minds of other young people. It's a weird world we live in, isn't it?
It is, and if you need help, for what it's worth, if anyone needs help with their social media pages, I heard that Greta Thunberg's dad is willing to post on your Facebook page for you if you need help with that.
Social media, there's a big problem for young people, I think. And that's not me saying that, we need the government to step in and regulate and all the rest of it. But Ryan, I do think that plays a lot into, some of the problems children are having nowadays growing up compared to me and you. We only had peer group pressure from those around us. Now they've got 24/7 online global peer group pressure to put up with. It's a whole new world for youngsters.
It's a brave new world. It's peer pressure that makes adults as much as children who are even more emotionally vulnerable, arguably, feel that they're insignificant, they're worthless unless they get the likes and the comments. And I think that's also another way to program mass suicide. I mean, that is one of the reasons officially, if that's worth anything, officially by, CDC, government, whoever studies this kind of stuff for suicide rates. That's one of the reasons people are killing themselves, because they don't feel connected to people. Social media, phones, and all that.
In a world where we've never been so connected. Virtually. Yeah, physically, it's a very lonely place at times. The best of times, the worst of times, and me and Ryan will always be here to guide you through the apocalypse. So we are definitely out of here this time. And of course, you know what's coming now? Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.